Looking at page 3, we've got some common formulas. We've got the formula that gives the degrees Celsius in terms of degrees Fahrenheit. We've got the simple interest formula, I equals P times R times T. And let me tell you about this one a little bit. This is related to like putting money in the bank and then having that money earn interest each year. And capital P stands for principal, which is your initial amount. The principal amount is like however much you first put into the bank. And then your R is the annual interest rate. You always want to give that as a decimal. So if they tell you it's 7%, you'd want to put in 0.07. And then your time is T in years. So that's that formula. And then the distance formula that we've already been working with. Distance equals rate times time. So number 10, go ahead and read it. A fever is generally considered to be a body temperature greater than 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Your friend has a temperature of 37 degrees Fahrenheit. Does your friend have a fever? All right, so let's write down the formula. And keeping in the spirit with this lesson, let's approach this by writing this formula in terms of F instead of C to solve this problem, because they're giving us a Celsius temperature, so we want to plug in for C and be able to solve for F. And so to get F by itself, the first thing we'd want to do is get rid of this 5/9, so we can undo that by multiplying by the reciprocal 9/5. That cancels these things. So now we have 9/5 C equals F minus 32. And then again, trying to solve for F, we're going to add 32 to both sides. So we've got F equals 9/5 C plus 32. So we've essentially inverted the formula now to where it's a formula for Fahrenheit in terms of degrees Celsius. And so now to answer their question, we're going to plug in 37. So we want to know the Fahrenheit when the degrees Celsius is 37. And since we're talking about temperature, and temperature is typically given in decimals, I would go ahead and put this in the calculator and get a decimal value. And it comes out that this Fahrenheit temperature is 98.6, which is not a fever. So the answer is no, it's actually normal. All right, number 11. So this one is our distance, rate, time problem for this lesson. I'm going to give you a different way to think about it than we did in the last lesson, but you could still use that same method that we learned in the last lesson with the table, but just a different way to think about it. So a truck driver averages 60 miles per hour while delivering freight and 45 miles per hour on the return trip. The total driving time is 7 hours. How long does each trip take? Okay, so this lesson is about taking a formula and solving for a certain variable. So I want you to think about, if you have distance equals rate times time, and we want to represent the time that he spends for each leg of the trip. Well, time is going to be equal to, if you solve for time, it would be equal to distance divided by rate. And so what that means is that for the 60 mile per hour leg of the trip, his time is distance divided by 60. And for the 45 mile per hour leg of the trip, his time is distance divided by 45. So we don't know the distance. We'll have to find the distance to be able to answer their ultimate question. But what we do know is that these times add to 7 hours. So what we can say is that d over 60 plus d over 45 equals 7. Okay, so now to solve this, I need a common denominator. The least common denominator for 60 and 45 is 180. So I'm going to multiply by 3 over 3 and multiply by 4 over 4, which gives me 3d over 180 plus 4d over 180 equals 7, which is 3d plus 4d over 180. So 7d over 180. And so now to get d by itself, I need to multiply by 180 over 7, which would be the reciprocal of this. So 180 over 7 on each side. Okay, so that cancels all that. So the 7's cancel here, so d equals 180. Okay, sorry, I'm going to have to come over here. So now we can answer the questions by plugging into these little formulas that we had written for each leg of the trip. So for the 60 mile per hour leg, we'd be doing 180 divided by 60, which is 3. Okay, so that portion of the trip takes 3 hours. That's one of the answers. And then for the 45 mile per hour leg, we'd be doing 180 divided by 45, which is 4 hours. And that's the other part of the question. Number 12. How much money must you deposit in a simple interest account to earn $500 in interest in 5 years at 4% annual interest? All right, so we take our formula and we are looking for how much money we should deposit. Okay, so that's your principal. So we need to solve for P. So I'm going to divide both sides by RT. So then that cancels that. So now I have P equals I over RT. So the interest that we're looking to earn is $500. I'm going to plug that in for I. And the rate is 4%, so 0.04 times the time is 5. So that's going to be 500 divided by 0.2. And that is $2,500.